So the father of motivational theory is Abraham Maslow. And what he really pointed out is that there's many levels of motivation. At our most basic level is our biological needs. Are we getting enough sleep? Are we getting enough to eat? Are we safe? And so forth. Now, if biological needs really drive us, we never really get beyond the level of pleasure-pain motivation. What I mean by that is our life is centered around how much pleasure we can get into our life and how much pain we can avoid. And that is a very rough way of living. You'll understand that really turns you into demanding to get certain things and manipulating others to get them. So people who don't mature beyond those biological needs are really locked in a pretty fearful existence. The next level of motivation is really around success or goal achievement. And this is a level of motivation we learn when we're in, become adolescents, young adolescents, or in high school, where we really learn that if we have a lot of self-control, we can attain goals. And what we're searching for at that level of motivation is to grow in our capability to do something. So we feel effective, that we can make things happen, we can learn, we can master things. And we grow in status and power. So in school, if we're a teenager, we're looking for popularity, for instance, or we're looking for excellence in the classroom or on a sports field. Now, if that's where our development is arrested, what we become is goal-seeking missiles. So there's many people who just live their life as high achievers, just achieving goal after goal after goal. Now, what's difficult about that is it's exhausting because your primary motives are extrinsic to you. Your capabilities, your status, your biological needs, that's all about how much stuff you have and what your position is in a company, how much money you make. All those extrinsic motivators are at any time susceptible to be taken away from us. So what that does is it creates a tremendous amount of potential stress. So we live in kind of a sea of stress and anxiety. What Maslow said is that higher up the maturity level is a different level of motivation, and that's intrinsic motivation. That's a motivation that comes from inside us. And the elements of intrinsic motivation, the first elements are autonomy. In other words, I don't really care so much about status, that is what others think of me. I care about what I think of myself. I don't really care about goals as much as other people want to give me. I care about the goals that are important to me. Now I may adopt goals that others give me, and then they become mine, but I'm going to be autonomous. I'm going to be self-directed. I'm going to choose my life and live it. I also want deep friends and family that I bond to. So I want to feel a little tribal connection. So that's a sense of belonging. And then finally, at the highest level of motivation, which he called self-actualization, you have the combination of both personal fulfillment and a sense of purpose. And what I mean by that is, well, Aristotle put it this way, that our best life, the happiest people that he observed and that his philosophical thought brought him to were people who were fulfilling their potential for a purpose that was meaningful to them. Well, Abraham Maslow, thousands of years later, concluded the same thing through his studies, that the people at the highest level of motivation aren't driven by external factors or fear or stress. They're driven by their intrinsic drives that give them a sense of vitality, that give them a life force. Life force is a very powerful concept because it's a force that comes within us. And when we know this, that when people have everything taken away, in other words, we have all the intrinsic motivators taken away, that if we're really in touch with our life force, our sense of fulfillment, our sense of purpose, that we can endure anything. The reason we know that is because of the many studies that have been done on prisoners of war, where basically everything for many years is taken from people, all sense of control over their own life. Their health is ripped from them, food, sleep deprivation, all of this are used against them to try to break them down. But people have thrived under those circumstances. We can think of Viktor Frankl in his beautiful book, Man's Search for Meaning. We can think of the Vietnam prisoners of war who came back, and the ones who survived and continued to thrive afterwards were driven by self-actualized meaning. So it's possible to have nothing in terms of extrinsic payoffs and live in an intrinsic world of powerful meaning that drives us towards the life we most want, and in this case, the career we most want. So if we just look at a summary of what I've said, on the one side are these extrinsic motivators, which are in the workplace look like survival and competition and status and the accumulation of stuff, so we want lots of money. On the higher motives, there's things like fulfillment. I feel very fulfilled doing this work. It makes use of my talents and desires. There's the sense of I'm growing in capability. I work with people I like to collaborate with. We have values in common. That's the most important thing. If I have values in common with another person, my willingness to collaborate with them is much greater than if I either don't know that or suspect we have different values. And then another intrinsic motivator is growth. Am I growing? Am I learning? Am I getting skills? Am I getting more capable? And that gives me the desire to do more and get better. And then meaning. Is the work itself meaningful? Am I doing something that matters to me, and am I doing something that matters to others? So when I'm asking you what you really, really desire, I'm sort of asking you, which side of you are you willing to investigate in terms of your desires? If you're only looking at your intrinsic motives and say, well, that's what I desire. I desire a big, important job with lots of money and high security. What I want to introduce you to is that there's a whole other dimension of your essential self that desires something more than that, something different than that. And I'm not saying extrinsic desires are bad. I'm just saying they're not the whole story. And if that's where we live our life, we're going to feel a lot of stress. And swimming in a sea of stress is very, very destructive to our health, to our relationships, and to even our capabilities. So how do we get at our unique intrinsic motives?